Hi, welcome to the F1 Time Portal, a Formula One history podcast started by two Formula One junkies. I'm your host, Rosa.
And I'm your Cecilia host, Luigi. And today we're taking you back to the fourth part of the 1970 race review season. So let's go.
Hi, Louie.
How you going? What'd you say,
Good.
junkies?
Junkie, yeah. I thought I'd lean into the 1970s vibe.
I wonder if
is it junkie more 1980s? I don't know.
I think it's more of an 80s thing, but I was thinking to myself, we don't connect the song My Words and Your Words.
No, we don't.
I doubt Cecilia is about junkies.
No.
If you know that song you know who sings it?
No, I have never heard of that song. I was just going to ask you.
No way. That's I'm not saying it's my favourite song, by the way. It just happened to be a big song of 1970. Simon and Garfunkel.
Oh, maybe if I heard it, I'd know it, but it's not coming to me. Yeah, okay.
It was a big folky sort of song.
Oh, okay.
I'm not the sort of person that's going to sing it or hum it, so
okay.
You're going to have to Google it. But I'm pretty sure it's not about junkies, that's for sure.
Okay, right.
Yeah. So, race 9 of 13 in what is a very interesting Formula One season, yeah?
The back end of the season, yeah. And we still haven't hit our title events.
Yeah, I know.
Of this year. So, yeah.
Okay. So this race is at the Österreich Ring. It's on August 16, 60 laps, 24 drivers. It's a 3x2x3 grid formation, and it's a warm and sunny race weekend or race day. So this is actually the first Austrian Grand Prix at the Österreich Ring, which in the 2020s era is actually still being used as a racetrack. And is owned by Red Bull and is now called the Red Bull Ring.
Yeah. I think I like the Österreich Ring better. But anyway.
Yeah, it sounds good. Yeah.
It sounds good. So the old Zeltweg track was an old airfield and it was considered unsuitable for F1. We've had a race there though, haven't we?
Yeah, we have.
Yeah. I remember that the airfield was really hard on all the cars actually. So, yeah, probably safety started to play a part in looking for new tracks. This track is quite near the old track. I think it overlooks the old track. So
yeah, I think so. Yeah, they're not far from one another. Yeah, it's funny to have two racetracks near each other. Like you'd think they'd space it out a bit for different people, you know?
That's right.
Yeah, so of interest regarding this list or the entrant list for this race was that Frank Williams had recruited a newcomer, none other than Tim Schenken. In place of Redman, who was tied up with other sports car commitments.
Yeah, good old Aussie name. That's why we're mentioning him.
Yes.
Really, that's the only reason we're mentioning
Yeah, it is. And I think that it is going to sound disrespectful, but he doesn't become a great driver.
No.
Formula One. But I think he's like a very senior person in supercars admin or something.
Oh, okay.
He's
good
like
on him.
He's big wig in motorsports in Australia.
Okay.
So
well, good
at
on
least
him.
He got to Formula One, and not many people do. So yeah. So weirdly, there was a total of 11 hours allocated to practice at this race.
What? Is that a test session as well as practice? That is huge. 11 hours.
I know. It's nuts. And it's not even that long a track. The Red Bull Ring nowadays is not a big track.
No.
I don't think it was back then.
No.
So I don't think they went from big to small. So 11 hours.
That's ridiculous.
So Ferrari were quick to show their pace, though, at this track. And at the end of the 4-hour session.
Can you imagine, working it as a TV commentator? Like, what you'd have to say, or for 4 hours. I know that now it's a bit dry watching practice. And they're only an hour session. Imagine 4 hours. Oh, my God.
I guess what helped is it was radio maybe.
Maybe.
And they wouldn't have had TV broadcasting back in 1970. That sort of started in the late 70s, early 80s.
Okay.
So they would, I guess the positive is they would have described everything they were seeing. I can see a mark on that concrete. Oh, there's no concrete barriers. Oh, the bush. No. Safety bush. Yeah. So Regazzoni and, what do you say, Giunti? Giunti set the two fastest times because X had yet to arrive. That lined up. That made sense though, doesn't it?
It did.
X had yet to arrive and Rint in the Lotus was third. So there was some minor drama to arise though as Tyrrell checked the width of the Lotus 72 and found that the car was 2 centimetres too wide. And Ken Tyrrell promptly informed Colin Chapman.
There is so much to unpack there. First of all, how did the car get 2 centimetres wider between races? Like, what happened? Secondly, what is Ken Tyrrell doing going around measuring cars?
Yeah, and not looking dodgy. Yeah.
And thirdly, why isn't he reporting that to like the race control people rather than informing Colin Chapman, who can then fix it?
Yeah, I would be going to the race control people say disqualify.
Exactly. Or you've got like 20 minutes to fix this or whatever. Like,
or wait till the end of qualifying and then tell them. Then tell CSI, not Chapman. But
No.
I think there was camaraderie, like, look, we can. It's us versus Ferrari.
It is.
There was a bit of that. Yeah.
Nowadays there wouldn't be. Like nowadays it's like, or even last year with the whole wing issue with McLaren, it was like Red Bull telling the officials, oh, that wing is not in code. And
the officials and the media.
Yeah. Look, it might not have been Ken Tyrrell himself. It says Tyrrell, so I'm guessing it was just a mechanic. But still, what are they doing going around measuring cars?
Yeah, I know. It's dodgy. Questionable. So it's a different era. So it looks like those 11 hours really did come in handy for the Lotus team because obviously that gave them time because it took a long time for them to fix it. Had to move had to adjust radiators and things like that.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So Rindt set a pole-winning time ultimately. So obviously they fixed that car. Regazzoni in the Ferrari got second, which is pretty good for like his third or fourth race. Ickx was next in the Ferrari and Stewart in the Tyrrell.
Yeah, well, Lotus and Rindt are now in their groove, aren't they? Like, that's pretty good that he set that time, even after all the car width problems.
Yeah, I still can't believe he didn't take him down.
I know.
I just can't believe it. Because, I mean, Stewart's in the running for this championship. So at race start, the Ferraris of Regazzoni and Ickx roared into the lead, followed by Rindt, Giunti, Eamon and Beltoise. So Stewart in the Tyrrell was a few places further back, but he already had issues with a fuel leaking issue into his cockpit.
This is like the third or fourth time we've heard about fuel leaking in cockpits. Like, what is going on? It's becoming regular for this season. Maybe that bladder is not working as it should.
It's made it worse. It's it's every time we didn't hear about this much until that bladder came along.
Yeah.
Yeah, weird. So it was actually a terrible first lap for Tyrrell because not only did Stewart sort of have that issue, of course, but Sevet retired with a blown engine and he'd laid oil down on the track. And Stewart would also retire due to the amount of fuel splashing around in his cockpit. I mean, that's just...
What? That is ridiculous.
That's just playing with fire. Pardon the pun.
Oh, Luigi.
Yeah, I didn't mean that. It was just the thing, yeah.
And this being the 1970s, he actually could have there would have been people smoking in like the pits.
Oh, yeah.
They maybe would have handed him a little, have a little puff of a cigarette. God.
Yeah, so... And the burning on the skin, let alone the cigarette thing, yeah. Now, what's guaranteed versus what's likely was what you said. Yeah.
Exactly.
So basically on lap 2, Regazzoni waved his team leader through into the lead.
Again, that's the second time Regazzoni's done that.
I guess he got the job. He's like an Italian, Swiss. Yeah. He's like an Italian. And he's been told, he probably signed the contract that said, if you want to be in this team,
you're number 2.
Driver. Your name is good. It sounds a bit like my surname, actually.
It does.
Yeah, because my name's got a double Z in it. But your name is just not as cool as Jackie Ickx. So that's the rule.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So Rindt was still third, obviously with the Ferrari switching, but he saw the oil flags come out and he eased off, and he was suddenly relegated to 6th as a group of cars flew past.
Jeepers! So no one else respected the oil flag, and they just zoomed past him, going, "What are you doing, you idiot?"
It's weird because this is not in the era of technology. And do you remember that race in 2024, late 2024, when it was Verstappen in front of Norris? I don't remember which race. Doesn't matter. It's like one of the last 5 or 6 races of the season. and they were going through a yellow flag
Oh,
area.
yes. And Norris didn't slow down.
Yeah, now technology
Yes.
would have shown that, but Max was on it like a bullet because he was obviously noticing the gap had slightly reduced, and
Yeah.
very
And
very
he
different.
told his crew, and then they went and told the officials to look at it, and then the officials found that Lando hadn't slowed down.
Hadn't lifted enough, and that was in the era, I mean, and that was micro versions, and this is like six cars flying past. And I'll make a bet none of them got a penalty. I'll make a bet they even probably got a pat on the back, you know?
Well, didn't Lando get a stop go for that? Like, that was one of the most harshest.
Yeah,
he did. He got like the
overly,
only stop go of the season.
Yeah, ridiculous. It was over heavy. The whole season was erratic with penalties. So Rint's down to sixth now after lifting. And by the time he recovered some places, so he clearly had pace in hand, the Ferraris and Beltoirs in the Matra were already 8 seconds clear. So those are the 12-cylinder cars, aren't they? Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Yes.
So Rint could not make an impression on the leading trio, and then his engine expired on lap 21.
I think many of the Austrian crowd also expired and went home at this point.
Poor Austrian crowd. I mean, he was leading the championship. Won many races. Yeah.
They've got 2 tracks next to each other, so they're big motorheads.
Yeah.
Like
yeah. So with Rint out, Junti moved up to third.
Wow, everyone. That is a Ferrari 1-2, isn't it?
1, 2, 3.
What do you mean one? Oh, because they've got 3. They've got 3.
Yeah, Regazzoni's second.
Oh.
And yeah.
Okay, they're back, Louis. They're back.
Yeah,
Ferrari's back.
And I mean, wasn't it 69 that Ferrari just had Eamon?
Yes.
And here, you know what I mean? It's like schizoid. It's one way or the other.
That's right.
Yeah. So by lap 40, this is a 60-lap race. The leading Ferraris were 12 seconds ahead of Beltoirs in the Matra, with the rest ever changing positions due to car issues and retirements. So this is a bit of a short race review because obviously when a team dominates like this, not much else happens. So 3 laps to go, suddenly Beltoirs had a fuel pump issue and the last few litres of fuel were not picked up. Therefore, Beltoirs spluttered into the pits to make a stop and he would end up finishing 6th.
Fuel again. This time the fuel pump. Bad. Poor Beltoirs.
There's a point there. You know, we've seen, why did Brabham run out of fuel and this and that? It may have been fuel pump issues.
Yes.
Yeah, not necessarily running out of fuel. So X won the race by 0.6 seconds from Regazzoni.
Yeah, I reckon Regazzoni got told to let him pass. Or he just did it because he's the number 2. But he would have made sure everyone knew he could have beaten X. He would have done just at the line, just get ahead of me. Yeah.
Well, no, but he waved him through. But
do you reckon?
They said, I said so. He waved him through earlier in the race.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I thought maybe he would have.
No, the words were waved him through. So, but the thing is, he was 0.6 behind, so he was making it clear.
He made up time.
X was not pulling away.
That's true.
Look, I had him. So yeah. So Stommelen in the Brabham. So we barely mentioned him, but he was just the next driver up after all the retirements. So he finished third. He's the one in the white Brabham,
white
isn't
car.
He?
Yeah.
And he was about 1 minute 30 behind, thanks to Beltoirs' late retirement, and a very large Italian contingent swarmed onto the track at race end, for they had seen a very convincing 1-2 by the Ferrari team. Did Junti finish third?
Yeah, no, he must have been one of the retirements because Stollman came a distant third, and you did say there was lots of retirements. Yeah, okay. Whoa, that is surprising 1-2 by Ferrari. Like no one would have picked that, I wouldn't have thought.
No, and not only a Ferrari sort of on form, but X has definitely got a teammate supporting him.
Yes.
And waving him through, you know? Yeah.
I've written here X is now a clear threat to Rint, but he's got some form and his car's coming good and he's up there, but he's still like 26 points away from Jochen Rindt. So yeah, Jochen Rindt's on 45 Brabham's on 25, Denny Holmes on 20, and now Jackie Ickx and Jackie Stewart are together on 19.
If you were to look at this, if I was to look at this and ask you, I'd say Rid's got the championship, of course, and I would say I'd still put Jackie Stewart as the biggest threat because he's the sort of driver that can just go on a dominant streak.
Yeah, but his car's not helping him out too much. It's interesting.
You know what I mean?
I know. Yeah. Oh, look, I wouldn't have picked Jackie. I don't pick Jackie Ickx as a threat, but
he happens to be on form now. That's all.
Yeah, and his car's coming good too. So, okay, so on the constructors, we've got Lotus on 50, March on 33 with Brabham, and McLaren on 27 and Ferrari on 25.
Excellent. Now, before we go on to the next race, the Italian Grand Prix, I wanted to quickly mention, because we're a history podcast, Rose, I don't know if you saw that link that I sent to you.
Oh, yeah, you did. Yeah, I did see that. So
it was interesting that just today, we're recording this on the
2nd of Feb.
2nd of Feb 2025, and this report came out on the 1st of Feb 2025, that the W196 Mercedes has smashed the record for the most expensive F1 car ever sold. So for those of you that remember, we talk about it regularly. The Streamliner.
A Streamliner. So the wheels are covered. It's not the open wheel version.
They had a version without that too, but on the fast tracks, they went for the Streamliner, and it sold for 51.15 million euro. So that's about 43 million pounds. And it beat the previous record. That car last sold in 2013 for 19.6 million pounds. So it went from 19.6 million pounds to 43 million pounds from 2013 to 2025. And so it set the record for the most expensive Formula One car ever sold. But it's still not the most expensive car ever sold, but I think it will become that in time.
What's the most expensive? It had it in there, didn't it? I didn't recognise it.
I didn't know what it was either. It was another Mercedes, funnily enough.
Yeah,
it was a road going, so I think it's a stock standard car.
Oh, okay.
It can be anything but stock standard for the price. It was a 300 SLR Uhlenhaut Coupe.
Yeah, no, never heard of it.
Which someone paid, I think they must be talking Aussie dollar. That must be US dollar, I think, because they're using a dollar symbol, but they haven't clarified. 142 million in 2022.
Oh, wow. That's huge.
So, that car must be made of gold or something, and the engine's made of gold, and I don't know. But
well, the article goes on to say that Bernie Ecclestone's car collection, which has a lot of old F1, I mean, we're hearing his name in this era. So he's collected a lot of the old classic F1 cars, and they said that his collection was due to go on sale.
Yeah, and they anticipate it to sell for a 9-sum figure, which means they don't clarify the currency. I'm thinking pound because this is UK guy in the UK. That's nearly £1 billion, but that's for a lot of cars.
Yeah, if they split up that collection, Louis, you and I would have a chance. We'd go and bid for a Ferrari.
We'd end up with that BRM, Bulby BRM. No, the H16 could be in there.
The H16 would be in there.
I want the H16.
You want it, yeah.
Yeah, so I thought it was good to have a little segue there for a bit of fun because this next race is not so much fun.
No.
Okay, so we're up to the 10th race of the season, the Italian Grand Prix. A track we normally love. There's awesome slipstreaming at Monza. 6th of September, 68 laps, 27 drivers, 2x2 grid formation, and the weather was hot. So if Ickx was to seriously challenge Rindt for the championship, and the reason why they talk about Ickx like this is because he's on form and he's been really good lately, he needs to win this race to pretty much stay in touch. And Lotus had their Lotus 72C for their drivers, so obviously an upgraded version, so they're developing that car, maybe 2 centimetres thinner.
Yeah.
Including one for their customer team, Rob Walker.
Okay, and BRM arrived with their new V12 engine. So they had a V8. So they've got now a V12, which gave them an extra 20 brake horsepower.
Yeah, okay.
Good timing by them.
So other than what we have discussed, there was little to change from the last race. So to practice, Ferrari were immediately on the pace at this slipstreaming track. So we're not hearing much about Tyrrell, really. And the only real non-Ferrari threat came from Jackie Stewart, which had the front and rear wings removed in order to just reduce drag.
Yes. Just like the old school early mid-60s cars, Luigi, that had no wings.
Yeah. So Rint in the Lotus was having a tough time of it on the first day, as he had to contend with some engine issues, and even he resorted to removing the wings in order to remove drag. However, he was not able to get near the time set by the Ferraris.
Okay, so now the car was slow and didn't look so cool. Like those wings made it look really cool, but anyway.
Yeah. And I mean, the other thing to mention is, the Ferraris are on their home track.
Yes, so, well, this track really suits the Ferraris.
But they probably do everything they can for this race.
Yes, exactly.
So, yeah, they probably built the car for Monza and then made
100%. I can imagine.
They made it fit for every other track.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. So on the Saturday practice session, we have a tragedy.
Okay. Well, I think this is the title tragedy, isn't it? Because I remember you telling me that it took you nearly a week to build up the courage to review this race. That's the reason, right?
Yeah, it is the reason. And it was.
Okay.
Yeah, so Rint's Lotus 72C swerved into a guardrail at speed, and Rint was dragged out of the car and taken to hospital, but was dead on arrival.
That is so bad. The feeling among the paddock was the shock that a potential world champion had been killed, and almost at the exact same spot as Wolfgang von Trips in 1961. So we'll do a Rint obituary at the end of this season. But as a result of the accident and Rint's passing, the rest of the Lotus drivers, which were Fittipaldi, Miles and Hill, withdrew as a mark of respect. So that includes the Rob Walker team as well. They all withdrew from the race.
Yeah, and don't forget Hill wasn't exactly best mates with Rint.
No, yeah.
So I actually wish the F1 organisers showed respect to these sorts of events if a driver has a serious accident or passes away. But yeah, as we know, the show goes on.
It just goes on, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, one thing I was going to mention, I don't know if I mentioned it in the obituary, but I'll mention it very quickly now, that because of this incident, they introduced a new rule in Formula One for safety that was making the drivers wear the seatbelts that had the 5-lock system.
Yes, we don't really go into the gruesome details of the
I'm not talking
accident.
about Rint. I'm just talking about the outcome of it. Yeah, the positives of it.
The positive of it was that they changed the seat belting structure. Yes, yeah.
So there was a period of inactivity as the shock of what took place sunk in. There was no he was injured. They all knew.
No, they all knew, yeah.
So eventually the cars went out again, and it was Rodriguez in the BRM who set a time of 1 minute 24.36, and he got the closest to Ickx, who actually set the pole time of 1 minute 24.14. So to the race, Ickx and Rodriguez made a strong start, and it was clear to all, judging by the crowd's reaction, that Ickx was leading at the end of the first lap. So this is the day after the tragedy. And Ferrari's back on again.
I know, but he should be happy, right? But I can only imagine what Ickx is feeling leading the race after the Rint accident and the tragedy. It must be playing with his head big time. But anyway,
all of them, yeah.
Yeah.
Behind Ickx, Rodriguez in the BRM was next, then Stewart in the Tyrrell. I'm just going to call it Tyrrell now, and Regazzoni in the other Ferrari. However, Ickx's lead was to be short-lived as the slipstreaming battles continued, and by lap 4, Rodriguez and Stewart both moved ahead of Ickx.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, but they're both Rodriguez and Stewart were battling for the lead, and until lap 10, and that is when Regazzoni decided it was his turn to be in the lead.
Okay, well, he's in a Ferrari and he's in Italy, so why not?
Yeah, it's his job, actually.
It's his job, exactly.
Yeah. So the very next lap, Stewart, Rodriguez and Oliver all passed Regazzoni, but then Regazzoni retook the lead further later in the lap.
Wow. So I was reading this, Louis. I don't know if you came across it, but apparently the drivers were spurred on by the promise that a part of the prize money would be awarded to the driver in the lead at laps 17, 34 and 51.
I have not heard that before. That is hilarious.
Yeah. So several drivers joined like the tactical slipstreaming and thinking, okay, can I be ahead at this point? Can I be ahead at that point? So it got me thinking, how can we motivate drivers in 2024 to do that? Like prize money won't do it. They all earn more from endorsements and etc.
Yeah, you've said championship points is an option.
Yeah, they could get extra championship points if they led the race at like lap 34.
But that is so funny. And I mean, they must have had like, the thing saying 2 laps to bonus, 2 laps to bonus, to remind them. Because these drivers don't have digital things saying this is lap 17, this is lap 34.
Right. Exactly.
And they're not going to count. They're going to be focusing, right? But the thing is, this can only work on a track like Monza.
Like sleep. Yeah, like it wouldn't work at Monaco.
Yeah, worst case, yeah. It's interesting. And I think that's hilarious that was, but Monza didn't need this.
No, it's exciting anyway. Without it, you don't need the money to make it more exciting. But anyway, so there was a lot of. That's probably why Regazzoni thought, okay, I'm going to get into this.
Yeah. And I wonder if this was a rule that was put in place because Ferrari were doing well. Like if the Ferrari was not doing well, this rule was not going to be put in.
That's right.
Yeah, because they knew they'd get 1 or 2 of those. Yeah. So even Mike Lang, the author of our primary reference book, Grand Prix, agrees. He says, Regazzoni was leading again. So hot was the pace up front, it became too hot for some, and a rod shot through the side of Rodriguez's engine.
Oh, wow.
That's how hot the racing was.
I see. Wow, Mike Lang was very excited.
Yeah, I think, whether it was driven by that prize money or not, it's always exciting to watch Monza in this slipstream battle.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, we don't get that anymore now. We get it a little bit, but it's not like what we hear here. So the stories are much better in the past. So further back, there were a range of retirements, but at the front, by lap 20, the battle for the lead was still raging. Stewart, Oliver, Regazzoni and Ickx were all taking turns leading the race. So this is lap 20. So the first prize was lap 17, you said?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So finally on lap 21, Oliver made a concerted effort to take and hold the lead, which he managed to do for a whole 5 laps in a row.
Wow.
Yeah. That to me, in fact, that's called out is a sign, right?
It is.
By lap 26, Ickx had retired. The whole crowd were now totally relying on the sole Ferrari of Regazzoni.
Well, is that the end of the championship challenge for Ickx? I mean, he's 45 points. Well, no. What's he on? He's 26 points behind Rint at this point.
Yeah, and not that many races to go. I think.
No, there's only 3 races to go.
4 races to go.
4 races to go.
After this one, yeah. So pretty unlikely. But let's see. Let's see what happens. Then on lap 29, Holm barged his way. So we don't hear much about Holm, and bang, here he is. He barged his way into the lead, but again, he only held it for a very short time because he was repassed by Oliver and Stewart.
Okay.
Then Regazzoni heard that Rosa was cheering him on.
Yes, from the future.
Yeah. And he moved back into the lead. So, yeah, it's all on.
Well done, Clay. I don't know why he's called Clay, but I'm calling him Clay as well. Let's go Clay.
So now we're up to lap 37, so past that 34 lap bonus money point. So I wonder if Clay got that. He probably did.
Yeah, he must have.
Yeah. So Oliver's efforts came to naught as he then retired with engine issues. So these engines are being pushed hard.
Yes. Yeah.
So Regazzoni held the lead to lap 50. So we're starting to get the shape of a normal race now. But Stewart was really holding on, and these two were now in a battle of their own. As Beltoise and the Matra, Holman and McLaren fell back, and they started focusing on a battle for third place. So lap 53, Regazzoni and Stewart crossed the line side by side.
Okay.
And while it seemed the Ferrari had the measure of the March/Tyrrell, there was a surprise that Beltoise in the further back group suddenly made a brief challenge for the lead on lap 55.
Wow. We say this.
Yeah. Yeah, go on.
I was going to say, we say this every time, but if we could go back in time to watch a race, it would be Monza every time.
Yeah, for sure.
If you didn't know what to do, you'd go to Monza.
Yeah, you don't remember which race, which year.
I don't remember.
You're pretty safe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Mainly from the 60s onwards where the slipstreaming kicked in because Beltoise came from, I mean, he was further back and he challenged for the
Yes.
lead. I mean, my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, so finally Regazzoni listened to Rosa and started to pull away, and he actually ended up winning the race by almost 6 seconds.
Oh, well done.
Yeah, he received a wildly enthusiastic reception from the crowd,
I can
being
only imagine.
mostly Italian.
Yes.
Stewart came home second, but only after a tough battle, as he only beat Beltoise by a mere 0.07 seconds. So that would have been exciting to watch. Holm came third in that McLaren. Stommelen in the white Brabham came fourth. And second to fourth was covered by just 0.68 seconds.
That always happens at Monza. Like the top finishes are really, really close together. But yeah, that was an awesome race.
Yeah, it was. So overall, while we had an awesome race, we note the significant absence of the Lotus team, and in particular, championship leader Jochen Rindt. And we said we'd do the obituary at the end of the race. I think we meant at the end of the season.
The season, yeah, we'll do a bigger one. Yeah, he deserves
we're not
a bigger.
skipping over it. Yeah, we're not skipping it.
No. So, to the drivers' standings, Jochen Rindt's on 45 and he'll stay there, I guess. Jackie Stewart and Jack Brabham are both on 25. Denny Holmes on 23 and Clay Regazzoni's on 21.
And we don't even see X on this list yet.
No,
X
is still on 19. He's still on 19.
Yeah.
And on the constructors, we've got Lotus on 50, March on 39, Brabham on 35, Ferrari on 34. So they've joined the seconds, I guess. And McLaren's on 30. Yeah.
Okay. So we're now up to race 11 of 13, the Canadian Grand Prix. It's at Saint Hovit. Is that right? Yeah. September 20, 90-lap race, 20 drivers, 2x2x2 grid formation, and the weather was warm and sunny. So this is actually the 10th Canadian Grand Prix, and unfortunately one noticeable absence was that the Lotus team had withdrawn following the Monza tragedy.
That's a big call by the Lotus team. Like, Rindt is leading the championship, and I get that it's a very emotional time, and they've only really just gotten over Clark dying. Like, that was only 2 years ago. But I wonder whether they should have raced and helped defend the championship for Rindt. Because X has to win the last 3 rounds to take the title from him, which, at this point, it's not so hard to think that Ferrari could do that. They're on fire at the moment.
Yeah. And this is going to sound a little bit heartless, but it was nearly 2 weeks after the event. And I'm not saying 2 weeks is plenty of time to mourn.
No.
But yeah, like you said, Rosa, given the times when they didn't even stop races for people that passed away on the side of the track, why these emotional gestures now when they could protect his legacy?
Well, exactly.
By defending his legacy.
They could defend his lead, and they could actually make sure that he took the championship. So it's an interesting call. It's a big call by the Lotus team. But like I said, like 2 years ago, they lost Clark. So, yeah, it's a big deal.
There could be another thing at play here. I was thinking, I only just made this up, but most of us know that when there's a death in Italy, in particular Italy, it's quite complicated. Like they actually, they investigate it like a murder.
They do.
And they treat it like the team did a murder, and
it's true.
And they can blame the drivers. They can blame the team owners and whatnot.
The engineers and
and I wonder if there was maybe some sort of
controversy or
Canada links to Italy, and if he goes to Italy, they could be arrested. Not Italy, Canada.
Canada.
Yeah, who knows? That could be a factor too, but yeah, interesting. So to the race, though, there was high expectation that this would be a track suited to the Ferraris. So while Regazzoni struggled with brake issues at practice, X was leading the way at the beginning.
Here we go. Ferrari's on the charge. Yep.
So on Friday, the Ferraris completed their domination, with X setting the fastest time of 1 minute 31.6, followed by Regazzoni 1 minute 31.9. And in the meantime, Stewart was toying between the March and the new Tyrrell, with some teething issues impacting the Tyrrell. And as a result, Stewart was the third fastest in the March. So just to clarify there, It is all the Ken Tyrrell's team, but he's moving from the March chassis to his own chassis.
Yes, we've kind of glossed over that during the season because it was sort of happening in the background. But yeah, he'd been working on his own chassis, wasn't he? The Tyrrell chassis. So I think it was ready for this race. So yeah, interesting now that Stewart's got two completely different cars to work with. It's not even the same, like different versions of the same car. It's like two totally different cars. So, yeah, it will be interesting and see how he transitions from one to the other and whether it works.
Yeah, and this could have been a sliding doors moment for the Tyrrell team too, because maybe Stewart could have been the one chasing this down, this championship down. If that Tyrrell turned out to be a gun car,
yeah, exactly,
and they win the last three races,
yes. Well, he's probably in a better position than Ix.
Yeah, he's ahead of Ix. Yeah, he's like 5 or 6 points ahead. So on final practice on Saturday, the Ferraris were expected to keep the front row, and Stewart in the March was there or thereabouts, but not quite on the Ferrari pace. So eventually, Stewart did equal Regazzoni's time of 1 minute 31.9.
Okay, settle down, Stewart, and you too, Luigi. That's enough. That's enough.
Yeah. So, yeah, Stewart, right at the end of the final practice, went back to the Tyrrell, which had earlier had another rear wheel problem, and suddenly pulled out a staggering time of 1 minute 31.5.
No way. What? I'm calling cheating. Cheat.
Check the width of the car.
That's right.
Although it's Tyrrell's car though. Yeah, so it was the old last lap of the day trick.
Yeah,
and something we see many drivers do in this current era of Formula One. Yeah. So Stewart had to decide. Start on pole in the Tyrrell, which had endured some reliability issues through practice, or start in third with the March.
Ooh, you'd have to choose pole. Like, who would not choose pole?
But you're the one that was having a go at Ix for taking the faster, like, I'll be more reliable, go back a bit. So now you're going for it here.
But he knew. But
he's not in a Ferrari, that's why.
But he knew that both cars had a problem. I don't know.
Yeah. I know he knew the front car had a problem. Well, Stewart knows his front car has got reliability concerns.
Reliability, but like
it's same.
X's car had an engine issue that they couldn't fix. Like, he knew that it would die through the race. He had to drive it different. So yeah, I don't know. It's same but different. But okay. Yeah. Anyway, well, X chose pole, didn't he?
You mean Stewart?
No, well, when it happened to X, he chose the pole car.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking.
So did Stewart. Yeah.
There you go. So there.
So when the flag fell, Stewart shot into the lead, followed by X. And by the end of the first lap, Stewart was already pulling away on his own, with X only just ahead of Rodriguez in the BRM, Surtees and the Surtees. I remember this is the first season with that car. He's up there.
Yes.
Sever in the March. This is the Tyrrell team.
Yeah.
So the pace of Stewart in that new Tyrrell was remarkable. And after 10 laps, he was already 12 seconds up in front.
Okay. I'm thinking this has something is about to go wrong written all over it.
Yeah, it does seem too good to be true.
Too good to be true.
Yeah, and I mean, Stewart's one of my favourite drivers, so
yeah, I know.
Don't jinx him, right? So while we don't often mention the back markers or midfield drivers in a race, it's worth mentioning a couple of interesting things. So with the race barely started, Surtees had a fuel issue and fell back to 17th. Oliver had a rear wishbone issue. The BRM team decided to replace it, so he had a 1 hour pit stop.
What? 1 hour pit stop? Why would you even bother? Like, it's not like they're going to learn about the car in the rest of the season. There's like 2 races left.
I know. Was this BRM? It is BRM.
Yes, it's BRM.
Yeah, no comment. Yeah. At the front, we were at lap 20, and Stewart's lead had grown but settled to 16 seconds, while X and the Ferrari had pulled clear of Rodriguez in the BRM. So the excitement was not focused on Rodriguez, though, as Regazzoni in the Ferrari was hounding him heavily. And in only a limited number of laps, Rodriguez fell from 3rd to 6th. So meanwhile, at the front, Stewart and X kept pulling away, but the gap between the two remained stable at 16 seconds. Then on lap 32, there was an issue with the Tyrrell, and Stewart's race was suddenly over.
It wasn't me. I did not jinx that. I did not say anything. But I told you, every time something like a new car's at the front, something happens.
It's always bad. And
It's always bad.
This is a 90-lap race. So he got to a third of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yay, X is now leading, right?
Yeah. Well, you're right. He's now leading, and he has a 27-second lead over his teammate Regazzoni. So no waving through this time.
No.
And we're only at lap 32. So at half distance, X's lead was now about 26 seconds, about the same, ahead of Regazzoni still, who was himself pulling away from Eamon in the March, followed by Servet in the March Tyrrell. And in fact, this battle of the two marches, by the factory team and the Tyrrell March, became the focus and excitement of the race as they were really tight and battling hard. And even Mike Lang, so he's trying to find something to talk about in the race.
Yeah.
Even Mike Lang focuses on Surtees' recovery drive rather than the front runners. And Surtees had to do a pit stop right at the start of the race, which forced him back to 17th. So he did a bit of a charge up through the field, and he moved up to 6th place. But he was, at this point, over 40 seconds behind 5th place Rodriguez in the BRM.
Jesus, Mike, that is boring. Like, why are you even going there?
I know.
So, but let's focus on the fact that there is a Ferrari 1-2 in the offering here. So that's exciting.
Yeah. There was then a gaggle of retirements, but with 14 laps to go, the big battle between Servet and Eamon, the Tyrrell March and the March, for third ended when he had car issues. That Servet had car issues.
Okay. So that's the last interesting thing that was happening in this race gone.
Yeah. Well, there is something interesting, though. They bothered to repair Servet's car during a 7-minute pit stop.
even the mechanics were bored. Give us something to do.
Yeah, 7 minutes. But they thought so many retirements, just go for it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah. So the race ended with Ferrari earning their second 1-2.
Yes.
With X taking a much-needed win to challenge for the title. But Stewart in that new Tyrrell had given them a real fright.
Is that your words or Lang's words there, Luigi?
Could have been both. I can't remember, to be honest.
Yeah.
So Eamon in the March finished third and was the only driver on the same lap as the leading Ferraris.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, and 1 lap behind was Rodriguez in fourth and Surtees' recovery drive to fifth.
Oh, that's pretty exciting for Surtees. All right, so we have Jochen Rindt on 45. Jackie X is now second on 28. Yeah.
Right. It's sort of there.
Sort of there or thereabouts, isn't he? Regazzoni's third on 27 and Stewart and Brabham are equal on 25. So, yeah. And the Lotus is on 50. Ferrari's on 43 with March and Brabham is on 35.
Okay.
So it's tight. Like it's interesting finish. We might leave it there and wrap it up next time, Luigi, because it's going to be...
And do the Rindt obituary as well.
And do the Rindt. Yeah, we'll do a coverage of his career a little bit as well. Yep.
Okay.
All right.
See you next time.
See you then. Yep.
Bye.
Bye.